Denzel Washington sat on the edge of his chair that night, posture perfect, hands folded like he'd come ready to let the truth do the talking. The studio lights were too bright, the air too still, like everyone in the room could feel they'd crossed the point where small talk could save them. Across from him sat Bill Maher, sprawled back in his seat like he owned every inch of the floor beneath his polished shoes. He twirled his pen like a toy, the smirk dancing on his lips, the same one that had gotten him paid for 30 years. The moderator, a young woman who already looked like she regretted this booking, cleared her throat. She said, "Tonight's debate is simple: truth and accountability. Two words that mean very different things to very different people." Bill leaned in before the next line could land, his laugh sharp as a tack. He said, "Look, if we're here to pretend Denzel's the moral compass of America, I'll need a drink." The audience gave that polite, awkward chuckle, the kind that tastes stale the second it leaves your mouth. Denzel didn't move. He just looked at Bill like he was studying something he'd seen too many times before. Denzel said, voice calm enough to feel like a warning, "You don't need a drink, Bill. You need to listen." Bill scoffed. "Here we go. The lecture. The speech about how comedians are the devil while actors are the saints." Denzel's hands stayed folded, elbows on the table, eyes locked. "Comedians tell the truth when they're brave enough. You just hide behind your jokes so you never have to." A low ripple moved through the crowd. Not laughter this time, but that hush that clings to the back of your throat when you know something's about to snap. Bill barked a brittle laugh. "Please, you think you're different? You've made millions selling righteous monologues. You're just another Hollywood preacher." Denzel's jaw tensed, but he didn't blink. "You think cynicism is wisdom. It's just cowardice with a microphone." Bill threw his arms wide, mug sloshing a bit onto his cuff. "What? You want me to stand here and cry about the world? You want every truth sugar-coated so it doesn't hurt your feelings?" Denzel leaned forward, voice low enough to pull every ear forward with him. "No, I want you to stop pretending the world's a joke because you're too scared to care." The audience froze. A woman in the second row put her hand to her mouth, eyes flicking from Bill's forced grin to Denzel's dead calm. The moderator tried to steer it back. "Bill, Denzel's point is..." Bill cut her off, voice sharp enough to slice. "Denzel's point is that he thinks he's better than everyone because he plays heroes on screen." Denzel's hands unfolded now, one palm flat on the table, steady as a gavel. He said, "I don't play heroes, Bill. I play men who stand for something when it would be easier to sit." Bill leaned in, eyes narrowing, voice dripping. "You think you're going to shame me off my own stage? You think I'm afraid of a guy who's spent his life reciting lines someone else wrote?" Denzel didn't blink, didn't breathe heavy, didn't give him the grin he was begging for. He said, "You're not afraid of me. You're afraid of the truth that doesn't need you." Bill's laugh cracked, a brittle bark that didn't echo. He snapped, "You want me to leave? You gonna kick me out, preacher man?" Denzel's chair pushed back with a slow scrape that made the lights feel twice as bright. His voice was so low the first row leaned in just to catch it. "I said leave." Bill Maher froze. The pen he'd been spinning clattered to the floor, but nobody bent to pick it up. He stared at Denzel like he couldn't decide whether to laugh or lunge. The grin twitched at the corners of his mouth, but died before it landed. The moderator's eyes darted between them, her cue cards limp in her hands, like she knew there was nothing left to moderate. She said, "Gentlemen, let's." Denzel's head turned so slow it made the whole front row lean back. His voice didn't lift an inch. "Don't call me gentle right now." Bill let out a sharp, forced chuckle, a laugh that came out too dry to swallow. "You're really gonna do this? Gonna stand up here and play hero while you throw me out for telling jokes?" Denzel's jaw flexed. Once, like the truth needed one last push to stay steady. He said, "You didn't tell jokes tonight. You spat poison and called it freedom." Bill's hand slammed the table, the mic rattling. "Oh, please, your truth is just as fake as mine. You stand there and pretend you're the voice of the people. You're a millionaire. You're Hollywood. You don't know a damn thing about truth." The hush cracked open, a handful of gasps, the sound of mugs being lowered too fast. The audience sat on the edge of their seats like they'd forgotten what show they'd come for. Denzel didn't flinch. He leaned in, both palms flat now, steady enough that Bill's rage made him look small. Money doesn't buy truth. It buys microphones for people like you to drown it out. Bill sneered. "You think you own this room?" Denzel's voice dropped so low the hush got thicker. "No, Bill. The truth owns this room." A single clap came from the back, awkward, half-swallowed, then silence again. Bill threw up his hands. "This is the problem with people like you. You want to control who gets to talk, who gets to laugh, who gets to be here." Denzel tilted his head, not angry now, just cold. "No, I want to stop pretending that cruelty is clever. And you made a career out of pretending." Bill's grin twisted bitter, eyes flicking to the crowd like he might find backup. Nobody moved. Nobody clapped. Nobody laughed. A woman near the front row whispered to her friend, just loud enough for a mic to catch. "He's really not gonna leave." Denzel's eyes didn't leave Bill's. He leaned back half an inch, voice calm as stone. "You don't get to profit off the people you mock, and then hide behind the word comedian." Bill's lip curled. "Oh yeah? And who are you to kick me out? You think you're some kind of king now?" Denzel's chair creaked under his weight as he stood, not fast, not dramatic, just final. "I'm a man who won't share a stage with a coward." Bill shoved back his chair, the legs scraping the floor like nails down a chalkboard. His voice cracked on the edge of the forced laugh. "You gonna make me, preacher?" Denzel didn't even blink. His voice dropped to a hush so quiet it snapped the whole crowd awake. "I said leave." And that's when the first person in the back row stood up, clapping once, sharp enough to feel like a warning. Bill Maher's eyes flicked to the audience. That single figure in the back still clapping, slow, steady, the sound echoing like a dare. A second person stood, then another. No applause sign flashed. Nobody needed one. The hush was breaking on its own. Bill's shoulders twitched like he might sit back down, force the grin back into place, but Denzel didn't move. He stood there, hands at his sides, eyes locked on Bill with that calm, so heavy it felt like a weight strapped to the room. The moderator's voice wavered, trying to patch what nobody could patch now. She said, "Bill, maybe we can." Denzel didn't even glance her way. His voice cut through her words like a blade laid flat on the table. "No. He knows where the door is." Bill barked a dry laugh, one last ragged attempt to scrape the spotlight back. "You people are pathetic. Clapping like sheep because St. Denzel told you to." A ripple ran through the front row, a single boo, then someone else shushing them, the tension tight enough to snap the lights above their heads. The grin fell off Bill's face when he realized no one was laughing with him. They were watching him. Denzel's jaw tensed, but he didn't shout, didn't posture. He just leaned forward an inch, voice low enough to hush the whole back row. "You don't get to spit on people and call it truth. Not here." Bill's fingers drummed the edge of the table, eyes darting to the exit sign above the side curtain. He barked out the last line, brittle as glass. "Enjoy your echo chamber, preacher." A man near the aisle stepped aside, motioning at the exit with a flick of his wrist like he was done sharing his seat with the noise. Bill shoved past, his footsteps loud on the floorboards that creaked under the hush he'd lost. Denzel didn't sit. He didn't watch him go. He just turned to the audience, his voice a soft hush that felt heavier than the shout they'd all expected. "Never clap for cruelty. Never call it courage." A woman in the front row wiped her eyes. No tears, just that tightness you feel when someone says the thing you'd buried under the noise. No applause sign blinked. No forced cheer rose. But the room, the whole room, stood with him, a hush giving way to a roar that felt more like relief than celebration. Backstage, Bill Maher's voice could be heard. Muffled curses, the sound of a man who realized too late the door didn't close for him. But in the lights, in the hush that stayed honest, Denzel didn't say a word more. He didn't need to. Some people build their legacy on the echo of cheap laughs. Some people stand in the quiet and let the truth speak for itself. And sometimes, the loudest line is the one that makes the noise get up and walk out.